As a hybrid athlete, nutrition's confusing. Which foods help you to run and lift? How often should you be eating? And how much protein do you need to be consuming to maintain muscle? These are all great questions and ones that I've struggled with for a long time. So follow me on a full day of running, eating and lifting to see how I've built a simple diet that supports both my training and my health. Right, so it's 8:30 in the morning. I've literally just woken up. I finished a twilight shift at the hospital at midnight last night, hence a slow start today, which is really frustrating because I've got a busy day ahead of filming, cooking, eating, training, and then Lil and I going on holiday this evening to cap it all off. So plan for this morning in this order: have a coffee, get out of my pajamas, go for a run, shower, breakfast, crack on with the day. Make sense? Let's go. So finished my run and finally time for the first meal of the day, which is my standard mix of granola, some nuts, some full fat yogurt, blueberries and a few chia seeds on top. And this is actually my homemade granola, which is super quick and easy to do. It's basically just a mix of oats, nuts, cranberries, mixed seeds, some applesauce for sweetness and some coconut oil as well. I find it so much cheaper than shop bought stuff and often a lot tastier too. I also find the shop bought stuff tends to be pretty ultra processed and is high in things like preservatives and unnatural flavourings. And it's one of those modern day paradoxes where you have to spend more money to buy a product with fewer ingredients in, which never makes sense to me. But honestly, you can put anything you want in it. I've said before that personally I don't count calories, but after a few comments I've kind of reflected on that, and I appreciate a fitness channel doing a diet walkthrough can seem a little bit hollow without that information. So for transparency's sake, I'll be putting the macros up for each of my meals on the screen so that you can follow along, and at the end of the video I'll count up the totals for the day. But my breakfast, this is a real staple of mine and helps me refuel with carbohydrates after the morning run, but also gives me a really good serving of fibre, fat and protein, which helps keep me full until lunch too. Time to tuck in. So it's time for my second meal of the day, or lunch as it's more commonly known, and I'm going to make a quinoa and lentil salad. I actually grabbed everything that I needed from the supermarket the other day, and I'm making everything from scratch for your guys' benefit. But usually my wife and I would make this stuff in bulk, and something like the lentil and quinoa salad I'm making today, that will keep in the fridge for at least 3 or 4 days. So I know it looks like I'm doing a lot of cooking today, but this isn't actually representative of what a normal day looks like for me. And this salad, for instance, that I'm making, if you're going to buy pre-cooked quinoa, then the whole thing to put together will take you less than 5 minutes. Right, let's get on with it. So we're done with my salad and I'll put the macros up on the screen. And this is effectively acting as my pre-workout meal. So the ratio of carbs to fats in this meal is much more skewed towards carbohydrate. Although I do eat a lot of plant-based fats in my diet, I find that these fattier meals right before a workout just makes me feel a lot more sluggish, whereas something light and fresh like this is absolutely perfect. I often get asked in this channel if I'm a vegetarian, and I'm not, no. But I do largely eat plant-based on weekdays for a variety of reasons. And I couldn't find it a bit more interesting because I used to exclusively rely on meat for all of my protein. I still eat meat most weekends and I still consume more than my fair share of dairy products. And in general, these are both great sources of protein. But I've come to realise that protein isn't the be-all and end-all of a diet. As long as I'm hitting around 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight each day, that's more than enough for an 80 kilogram fitness enthusiast like me. And in all honesty, because I don't count my macros, I've kind of been assuming this is what my average daily protein intake looks like. So I'm actually genuinely interested to see what it really is. And these plant-based whole foods that I'm eating tend to be much higher in things like healthy fats, water, fibre and micronutrients. So I actually feel full after a meal, and it makes it much easier to eat intuitively without having to count calories. Apart from on days where I'm filming for YouTube, of course. And the great thing about this new approach with my diet is that it doesn't feel like a diet at all. I'm just eating foods that I enjoy, that support my health, not just my training goals. Right, so I'm back from the gym. It was a nice easy session. I had some heavy overhead press to start with, but then some like deload work on the bench. But I'm now gonna make a snack, which I think is probably gonna be some eggs on sourdough toast with some avocado and seeds on top. And a couple of videos back, I got a few useful comments about making my own sourdough, so this is the result. Pretty happy. Although it is still, yeah, still pretty flat, isn't it? But yeah, now I'm approaching 30, I find myself becoming increasingly interested with things like specialty coffee, gardening, and making my own bread. It's like age is making me more boring, but perhaps I've always just been like this. Anyway, I'm embracing it, but please don't feel like I'm telling you to make your own bread, just buy it from the store like a regular person. So here we are, just a really quick and easy post-gym snack, if we're excluding the bread, of course. So just gonna eat this real quick, then gonna finish up my work for today, and I think I mentioned earlier on that Lil and I are actually heading away tonight for the weekend. So when she gets home from work, we'll probably cook something together and then head off pretty sharpish after that. Oh yeah, and by the way, here are the macros for this. Right, so I finished up with work for the day, all showered, and I've had a look in the cupboard, and I think I'm probably gonna make a lentil and chickpea dal. And this is one of the benefits of eating more lentils, beans, and whole grains. You don't need to be going to the shop every few days. Lil and I just bulk buy all this stuff, and it stays good in the cupboard for months, if not years. So even if the fridge is empty, you've always got healthy, nutritious food to fall back on without having to order takeout. And personally, I found with only a handful of different dried and canned goods, and with a basic selection of seasonings and spices, you can make a huge variety of different meals. And if you have fresh produce, that can just slip in as an addition too. I used to plan my meals out based on what meat I was going to have and then just add a carbohydrate and vegetable to go with it. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with this approach, it just got really boring after a while. But now my meals have a different variety of vegetables, beans, pulses, grains, fats, and I'm not exactly an accomplished chef. I'm just trying out different combinations of textures and flavours, seeing what I like, and then just repeating them over time. Right, so dinner all done, and here's the breakdown. And we're gonna need to absolutely scoff this down because we should have left half an hour ago. So just packing the car for a weekend away, and classic us, we're about an hour behind schedule, so need to be quick. We finally arrived at our little holiday home for the weekend, much later than expected it has to be said, but I've made myself a little snack, which is a small bowl of nuts and some grapes, and a pear to go with it. So I'll put the final macros up here, and I've totaled up the entire macros for the whole day in just 1 minute. It can sometimes feel like if you want to take your fitness seriously, you need to start eating fitness foods or supplements, and I know that I personally subscribed to this idea for quite a few years. But food is just food, whether or not you run, lift, or do neither. You don't need to get lost in the nuances of meal frequencies, supplement stacks, and exact macro breakdowns. And that's not to say that doesn't help some individuals' performances. It's just the vast majority of non-elite athletes, or regular humans for that matter, will be better focusing on the lower hanging fruit, which gives the most bang for their buck. What matters the most is that you get a good balance of macro and micronutrients from a range of different sources, and that you eat in a way that you enjoy and that keeps you at a healthy weight and one that you can sustain indefinitely into the future. And as far as fitness foods go, if you lift weights or exercise regularly, you should probably eat slightly more protein than an untrained individual to help with muscle growth and recovery. But that's about it. And for me, I do that by predominantly eating plant-based whole foods like you've seen today. But on the weekends, I'm often slightly more indulgent. Last weekend, for instance, I went out for a 6-course tasting meal and a few cocktails. If I can strive to try and keep to my healthy habits at least 80% of the time, that sounds quite realistic to me, and like something I might be able to sustain in the long term. And yes, I know I'm not going to be cutting to 6% body fat anytime soon by indulging like this on the weekends. But as someone that's just a pretty average guy who enjoys running, lifting, and generally just staying in shape, that was never going to be me anyway. And last but not least, here's my macro and calorie totals for today. But now I want to hear what you think. Do you have a different approach that's been working for you? I'm always interested to hear what other people are doing. Normal people who don't feel the need to share their breakfast with the internet like I do. And I'll see you next time.